5 years ago, I fell into a deep coma due to a car accident and both my parents died. It wasn't until I woke up that I discovered the person responsible for the accident was someone very close to me. Meanwhile, my daughter was living in a doghouse, eating leftovers and being bullied by the household servants. My husband had already found a new lover and tortured me day and night, forcing me to give up the family business. Seeing their family of 3 so happy together, I secretly contacted my childhood friend, who is the young Master Lin from the elite circle in Beijing. On the day of my ex-husband's wedding, I appeared with the young Master Lin, holding my daughter's hand, causing a sensation in the entire city. I was a vegetative patient, in a coma for 5 years, 1 month and 3 days. While I was still in a coma, I vaguely sensed someone pushing the door open. From the sound of it, I realized it was my daughter, Nua, who had come in. Nua held my hand and called out to me, "Mommy, I really want you to wake up and play with me. All the other kids have their moms with them." Just when I wanted to open my eyes and say to Nua, "Mommy misses you so much too, Nua, my good daughter." But at that moment, the door was kicked open. "You little bastard, who let you run here? What? You want this bitch to wake up?" The woman grabbed Nua by the ear and cursed. I recognized the voice. It was Zhou Lin, the daughter of the Zhou housekeeper. She used to be one of my best friends, but I only found out before the car accident that she had already conspired with the housekeeper to harm me. Nua broke free from Zhou Lin, bit her on the arm, and then stood in front of the bed. "You bad woman, don't come near my mommy." Zhou Lin pushed Nua to the ground and slapped her several times. "You little bastard, you dare to bite me? I'll beat you to death." Nua cried out loudly from the beating, her cries pierced into my ears, stimulating my nerves. "Mommy, help me, woo-woo. Mom, this wicked woman is about to beat me to death. If Nua dies, she will never see you again." I struggled to open my eyes, but as my consciousness tried to open them, I felt myself get up and rush to save my Nua. But my body lay motionless on the bed, unable to move, as if trapped in an endless nightmare. I was extremely anxious. Zhou Lin got tired of hitting and called Wang Ma to drag Nua away. "Wang Ma, throw this little wild child into the dog cage, and do not give her any food for 3 days." Wang Ma nodded and dragged my daughter out, and the room suddenly fell silent. But I was still struggling to open my eyes, trying to regain control of my body. Zhou Lin slowly approached me, and I could feel her footsteps getting closer and closer. When she leaned closer to me, she placed one hand on my face, mocking me as she said, "Miss Lin, you really have a strong life. You've been in a vegetative state for 5 years, and not only are you still alive, but your skin has become even more radiant." By the end of her words, Zhou Lin suddenly wrapped both hands around my neck, her face twisted and terrifying. "Why is it that you were born naturally beautiful, with fair skin and good looks, and come from such a good family? Why am I only the daughter of a servant, plain-looking, and not treated well? I'll strangle you." With Zhou Lin's hands choking my neck, I felt breathing becoming difficult and tried to struggle, but as the air in my lungs was nearly depleted, my consciousness began to blur. I thought I was going to be strangled to death by Zhou Lin when a familiar voice stopped her. "What are you doing?" It was my husband, Zheng Haodong. "He's here." Zhou Lin suddenly stopped her actions, her expression and voice becoming gentle. "I saw Miss Lin lying here pitifully, so I came to check on her and see if there's anything she needs help with." Zheng Haodong's voice softened. "Lilin, don't act rashly at this moment. After all, she's still the heir to the Xiao group." Zhou Lin walked over and linked her arm with Zheng Haodong's. "I'll listen to you. I'll do whatever you say." As soon as she finished speaking, Zhou Lin kissed Zheng Haodong's lips, and he pressed her against the wall. "You are very sexy today, and also very assertive." Zhou Lin chuckled seductively. "Of course, we've tried the kitchen, the bathroom, and the balcony, but never in front of your wife. Haodong, stop talking and kiss me." Zheng Haodong's breath became heavy as he embraced Zhou Lin and started kissing her. Next came the sound of clothes rustling and falling to the floor, mingled with their sounds of pleasure. The room was filled with springtime warmth, but my heart sank to the bottom. I can hardly believe that my husband has actually betrayed me, and even more unbelievable is that the one he betrayed me with is the daughter of the Xiao family servant. At this moment, I have to suspect whether the car accident 5 years ago, which took the lives of my parents and left me paralyzed in bed, had anything to do with him. Recalling the tragic state of my parents' deaths, my heart aches as if it were being pierced by a sharp awl, the pain so intense that I can hardly breathe, bringing tears to my eyes. Fortunately, they did not notice my abnormality, as it seemed inconvenient for them. Zheng Haodong picked up Zhou Lin and said, Let's go to the bedroom next door. You better perform well tonight. After they left, I suddenly opened my eyes and gasped for air, finally regaining control of my body. As the cold air filled my chest, my consciousness gradually returned, and I tried to lift my arms. Although my eyes had opened and I could see everything in the room, my arms were somewhat uncooperative and would fall after lifting halfway. After several attempts, I finally regained some mobility in my arms, which had been paralyzed for 5 years. However, unfortunately, my neck could only stay at a tilted angle and couldn't turn, while my legs remained completely numb. I tried slapping my legs, but they felt no pain at all. I thought that even though I woke up, I would still be confined to a wheelchair for the rest of my life. I forced myself to calm down quickly and started analyzing my current situation. If Zheng Haodong and Zhou Lin found out I had recovered, they would force me to hand over the Xiao family business and then kill me by any means necessary. For now, the plan is to ensure Zhou Lin and her associates do not discover I have regained consciousness and to find a way to contact my childhood friend. He is the only person I can trust right now. I grew up in Kyoto with my childhood sweetheart. Their family, the Lin family, is renowned in the medical field, while my family, the Xiao family, is well known in construction. Although our families are in different industries, our parents have a great relationship. They even arranged an engagement for us when we were kids. But I have never liked his spoiled and arrogant attitude, thinking he's all that just because he's good-looking, even though he has a face like a male celebrity.
He just isn't my type.
And he has shown the same feelings towards me. Later, I fell in love with Zheng Haodong, who had nothing but was diligent and ambitious. He was the typical Phoenix man. Now, I admit that I misjudged him. If I could choose again, I would never pick that heartless scoundrel. Otherwise, my parents wouldn't have died in a car accident. Otherwise, my daughter wouldn't have been abused. And I wouldn't have become a vegetative person, lying in bed unable to move, subject to humiliation. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Using my arms to support myself on the bed, I rolled off and crawled to a hidden compartment at the foot of the bed. There, I found an old phone I had previously discarded and quickly plugged it into the charger. Just as I was about to climb back onto the bed, I suddenly heard sounds from downstairs. I heard Henin's cries for help and immediately started crawling towards the door. Henin. When I reached the top of the stairs, I saw Auntie Wang pinning Henin down to the ground, while a chubby little boy clapped his hands excitedly beside them. Afraid of being exposed and killed by Zhou Lin, I could only cover my mouth and anxiously watch. After my daughter was pinned to the ground, the chubby boy straddled her back, saying, "Henin is our little wild dog. Haha, this is so much fun. Giddy up, giddy up." I guessed that the chubby boy was the illegitimate son of Zhou Lin and Zheng Haodong. Sure enough, Auntie Wang said, "Young master, you and this little wild brat play for a while. I'll go make you something delicious." The chubby boy was climbing and hitting my daughter's back. I wanted tea. Oh, rush over and slap him hard. After Aunt Wang turned and left, Henin angrily flipped the chubby boy to the ground. "You're such a pighead. If you bully me again, when my mom wakes up, she won't let you off." The chubby boy got up and glared at my daughter angrily, then raised his hand to slap her. "Stop it." I couldn't bear it any longer and shouted angrily. But when the chubby boy saw my fierce expression as I lay on the ground, he was so scared that he froze. You are a ghost." The chubby boy was so frightened that he fainted. Henin ran up the stairs step by step and hugged me tightly. "Mom, you're finally awake." Tears couldn't stop falling from my eyes as I reached out to stroke my daughter's face. "From now on, with Mom here, no one will dare to bully you," Henin sweetly said. "Mom, let me help you back to your room." I knew this place wasn't somewhere to stay for long, so with Han Han's help, I immediately moved into my bedroom. Once I lay down, I stared at Han Han with a serious expression. "Han Han, remember what Mom said? Don't trust anyone in this villa. Wait for Mom to rescue you." Han Han nodded obediently. "Mom, I know, everyone here is bad. Even Dad doesn't give me food." My daughter's inadvertent comment made my heart ache, and I clenched my fists tightly. During the 5 years I was unconscious, my Han Han must have suffered so much. Zheng Haodong, that bastard, he mistreats his own daughter. He's worse than an animal. I reached out to stroke my daughter's hair, reassuring her, and told her to go back quickly, and to make sure she pretended not to know that I'd woken up. "Mom, I'm a bit scared," Han Han said. I looked into her eyes and said, "Han Han, after Mom avenges your grandparents, we will never be separated again." Han Han hugged me and then walked away, turning back every few steps. I picked up the phone on the bedside table and dialed a familiar number from memory. A very lazy voice came from the other end of the line. "Hello, who is it?" I tried to restrain my emotions and said, Brother Boyu, it's me. Lin Boyu and I grew up together in Beijing. We were childhood sweethearts, so familiar that we could share a single skewer of candied hawthorn. Maybe because we were too familiar, having grown up together without any boundaries, I only felt sibling or platonic affection toward him, with no romantic feelings. When I first fell in love with Zheng Haodong, he advised me that Zheng Haodong was not a good match and hoped I would reconsider carefully. He had noticed Zheng Haodong's character back then, but I wouldn't listen. Even when my parents had their reservations, I ignored them. I was determined to marry Zheng Haodong. And so, I, the eldest daughter of the prestigious Xiao Corporation, married Zheng Haodong, who was just a minor employee at the company at that time. After getting married, Zheng Haodong was very obedient to me, but I never expected that he would secretly collaborate with the butler to murder my parents, with the intention of taking over the Xiao Corporation and killing me too. Looking back now, I realize how blind I was, not cherishing a good person and instead choosing a complete and utter wolf in sheep's clothing. Lin Boya's voice immediately became excited. Ruoxue, you finally contacted me. I took a deep breath. Brother Boyu, the murder of my parents is very likely Zheng Haodong and Zhou Lin. Please help me gather evidence against them. I want them to pay with their lives. Before Lin Boyu could say anything, I heard footsteps outside. Oh no, someone was coming. I quickly put away my phone and hid it under the pillow. My legs are still numb. If Zhou Lin and the others find out, I will be dead for sure. Zhou Lin pushed the door open and entered, followed by the butler and the chubby guy who bumped into me earlier. Aunt Wang brought in a basin of cold water from outside, and after Zhou Lin gave her a look, she slowly approached me. Zhou Lin pretended to be gentle and asked, Sister Ruoxue, are you awake? I closed my eyes and remained motionless as Zhou Lin waved her hand, and Aunt Wang lifted the basin of water and splashed it on me. The icy water splashed onto my face, and I almost couldn't help but open my eyes. Seeing that I still didn't move, Zhou Lin turned around and looked at the chubby boy. Fei Xiang, you're being naughty again. How could this useless woman possibly wake up? The chubby boy shouted. Mom, you can ask Henin if you don't believe it. She saw it too. After glancing at me, Zhou Lin prepared to take Butler Zhou and the others to find Henin. I wasn't sure if Henin had returned to the doghouse, and if they went there now, Henin would inevitably get a beating. No, I have to buy Henin some time. I suddenly opened my eyes, my body involuntarily convulsing. Just as they were about to turn around, Butler Zhou and the others were so shocked they were speechless when they saw my eyes open. She's awake, she's awake. Butler Zhou pointed at me, emotionally excited. Zhou Lin hadn't reacted yet, teasing Butler Zhou. Dad, why are you acting like a child? This wretched woman has been paralyzed for 5 years. How could she possibly? Zhou Lin suddenly turned around, her eyes widened as she met my gaze. How could this be? How is this possible? Go call Haodong immediately. Soon. Annie Wang helped me sit up and place me in the wheelchair. Zheng Haodong was still in his pajamas, seemingly not fully awake when Annie Wang woke him up. Zheng Haodong pretended to feel my hand. Ruoxue, you're really awake. This is wonderful. I secretly pulled my hand back, deliberately tilted my head, pointed at him. Zheng Haodong, unable to speak, making muffled sounds with my mouth. If I don't do this, Zheng Haodong's cautious and timid personality will definitely keep a strict
T-watch on me.
I pretended to be unable to make any sound to make them lower their guard. It was only after exchanging glances that Zheng Haodong and the others realized my situation. Although I had woken up and opened my eyes, my arm had regained mobility, but my speech and legs hadn't recovered yet, leaving me basically in a semi-paralyzed state. Zheng Haodong and the others secretly breathed a sigh of relief, and Zhou Lin walked over with feigned concern, holding my hand. Sister Ruoxue, don't worry, as long as the Xiao family has a bite to eat, there will be one for you too. We will treat you well. Butler Zhou inappropriately asked Zheng Haodong at this moment. Haodong, Ruoxue is already awake now. Do you and Zhou Lin still plan to proceed with the wedding tomorrow? Zheng Haodong glanced at him and then looked at me saying, Ruoxue, you won't blame me and Zhou Lin for getting married, right? Don't worry, we will all be one family in the future. Even if I marry Zhou Lin, I will never abandon you. I secretly cursed. It's been over 100 years since the fall of the Qing dynasty early this morning. So what? Do you still want to reinstate polygamy here? Seeing my unhappy expression, Zheng Haodong changed his tone and said, I've drafted our divorce agreement. As for the division of some assets, as long as you sign this agreement, once you recover, you can find someone you truly love. Huh, I sneered coldly in my heart. What does this beast take me for? A piece of trash without principles or bottom lines, who would stoop to his level. Zhou Lin added a comment that made me even more furious. Sister Washua, you might as well transfer the Shao Corporation to our brother Haodong. After all, it's better to keep the wealth within the family. We will ensure you and your daughter live in luxury and prosperity. I looked at them with cold eyes, performing like clowns in front of me. If I remember correctly, these low-born servants and ordinary people wouldn't have today's wealth and honor without my support. These ungrateful wolves, they are ready to consume me completely. They can't hold back anymore, right? If I really hand over the Shao group to them, my fate will be nothing short of tragic. It won't be long before I follow my parents into the grave. I'm not afraid of death, but if I die, what will happen to my daughter? If I die, won't this huge family business fall entirely into Zheng Haodong's hands? He would then live in my house, spend my money, and enjoy life with other women? Even if I were in the underworld, seeing that beast live so happily would make me so furious that I would crawl out of the ground. I ignored them, and since Zheng Haodong probably couldn't do anything to me, he asked Wang Ma to get me a new set of bedding, then they all went to sleep. I secretly broke out in a cold sweat. Luckily, when they went to get Zheng Haodong, I hid my phone in the secret compartment of the bedhead. If Wang Ma and the others had found my phone, I would have been completely exposed. If they knew I contacted Lin Boyu, I probably wouldn't survive even tonight. I lay in bed, thinking about my next move, but before I could fully figure it out, Han Han got into trouble. The next morning I was pushed out by Aunt Wang. It was the first time in 5 years since I fell into a coma that I walked out of my bedroom. Seeing the familiar flowers and plants in the yard, I couldn't help but recall my parents' faces and voices, and my eyes became moist. After Aunt Wang fed me a few mouthfuls of breakfast, Zheng Haodong grabbed his suit and went to the company. After exchanging a few glances, Zhou Lin and Aunt Wang helped me out of the wheelchair. Zhou Lin said hypocritically, "Sister Washua, let me take you back to your room to rest." I knew she had bad intentions, but I didn't know where she would start trouble. Sure enough, after they helped me to the stairs, they directly pushed me down. I rolled down the stairs to the floor. My whole body was in excruciating pain, feeling like I had fallen apart. But I knew this was Zhou Lin testing me, so I had to endure the pain and dared not make a sound. Zhou Lin reproachfully blamed Aunt Wang. "Aunt Wang, how could you be so careless? Look at how you've made the young lady fall. Go and see if she's hurt badly." Aunt Wang sneered. "All right." Zhou Lin and Aunt Wang walked over to me, and I intentionally made muffled noises from my throat to express my anger. Zhou Lin stared at me, seeing that I didn't seem to be faking it. She thought the testing would end there, but then Aunt Wang brought my daughter Hanin over. Hanin ran to my side and tried to help me up, but her small frame didn't have the strength. She was so distressed that she was about to cry. "Mom, did you get hurt? Hanin feels so sorry for you." I subtly shook my head, tears welling up in my eyes. Zhou Lin crossed her arms and mocked us. "See that? I've taken care of Hanin for 5 years, and she never called me auntie. But this vile woman just woke up, and Hanin is already calling her mom. You really are a devoted mother and daughter pair." After Wang Ma also mocked us, Zhou Lin picked up a glass of water from the dining table, added some medicinal powder to it, and then walked over to Hanin, shaking the glass. "Since you two are so close, a family should be together in everything. Wang Ma, make her drink this." Zhou Lin's voice was like a demon from hell. I didn't know what the powder was, but I knew that Hanin was in grave danger today. Wang Ma grabbed Hanin by the hair. Hanin tried to break free, but she was no match for Wang Ma's strength. Soon, an entire glass of water was forced into Hanin's stomach. After calling out Mom one last time, Hanin fainted. Zhou Lin sneered. "Do you see this? Shao Ruoxue, your daughter is about to die, and you're still pretending to be mute with me?" I cried bitterly, my eyes filled with endless hatred. If anything happens to Hanin, I will make sure Zhou Lin will neither live nor die. Seeing no reaction from me and hearing no response, Zhou Lin seemed convinced that I had lost the ability to speak. Bored, she had someone help me back to the bedroom, while Wang Ma carried Hanin into the car and drove off to an unknown destination. As soon as I returned to the bedroom, I immediately took out my phone and informed Lin Boyo about what had happened. Upon learning that Hanin had been kidnapped, Lin Boyo was furious, cursing that Zhou Lin and her accomplices were worse than animals, and promised to find a way to rescue Hanin. He wanted to rescue me as well, but I refused, saying I needed to stay and wait for the right moment. I was waiting for the chance to bring these scum to justice, to make the perpetrators pay for their crimes. What I didn't expect was that this opportunity would come so soon. On the third day, Zhou Lin and the others pushed me into a hotel hall, saying that they were going to hold a luxurious wedding here with Zheng Haodong and had invited many relatives, friends, and senior executives of the group. Indeed, In the 5 years that I was away, Zheng Haodong must have taken advantage of my name to form factions and engage in cronyism within the group. Many of the senior executives in the group have already become his subordinates and tools for making money. Therefore, there are many senior executives from the Xiao group who have come to curry favor with him for his wedding. At this moment, I received a notice from Lin Boyu, who said that everything was ready. I knew that this wedding was a great opportunity for me to turn things around. What surprised me even more was that, due to my relentless efforts last night, my legs finally had a trace of sensation. It looks like I'm not far from recovery. I gazed at Zheng Haodong, who was full of spirit on the stage, with a cold smile on my lips. The show is about to begin today. Zheng Haodong pushed me onto the stage and introduced me in front of everyone. Although today is my wedding day, it is also the joyous day of Ruoxue's awakening. Some of the guests recognized me and cast various complex looks at me, including surprise, disgust, and even mockery. They clearly knew that I am now just a half-paralyzed person in a wheelchair, absolutely no match for Zheng Haodong and Zhou Lin. In other words, I and the Xiao group were at the mercy of my ex-husband and his mistress. But I would never allow such a situation to happen, yet what Zheng Haodong did next refreshed my understanding of the limits of human decency. Zheng Haodong no longer pretended and instead took out the transfer agreement of the Xiao group, then leaned down and said to me, "Ruoxue, sign this agreement, and we will spare Henin." I was stunned. Henin is his biolog. Eichel daughter. How could he use his daughter's life to threaten me? Henin was taken away by Zhang Ma, and her life and death remain unknown till now. I came to realize something even more shocking. It turns out that Zhou Lin had Zhang Ma kidnap Henin, and the mastermind behind all this is actually Zheng Haodong. As the saying goes, even a tiger will not eat its cubs, but what Zheng Haodong is doing now is worse than a beast. I tilted my head, eyes red, looking at her, and shook my head vigorously. I would never agree to that beast's demands, and they would never be able to harm my daughter. Zheng Haodong thought he had me completely under his control for years, believing that I would follow anything he said. But he never imagined that I would reject him in front of so many people. He stood up in anger, his face purple with rage. Zhou Lin raised the transfer agreement in her hand and slapped it onto my face. "Xiao Ruoxue, you've been paralyzed for 5 years, and the Xiao group has been managed by Haodong. Today, in front of everyone, you will sign this transfer agreement. We deserve it. Don't be shameless. And don't blame us if we turn hostile." Inwardly, I scoffed. I have been paralyzed for 5 years, and they haven't laid a hand on me to end my life because the majority of the shares in the Xiao Corporation are in my hands. Without a transfer agreement signed by me, the Xiao Corporation would still remain under my control. Seeing their faces turning purple with anger, I felt increasingly delighted. The Xiao Corporation, which they have painstakingly strived to obtain, is about to become nothing more than an illusion. Zheng Haodong no longer held back and grabbed my neck with a reverse grip, making it hard for me to breathe. "Tell me, will you sign or not? If you don't, I'll send you down to meet my dear father-in-law and mother-in-law right now." I faced him with a cold sneer, and finally, some of the guests couldn't stand it any longer and shouted, "Zheng Haodong, you've gone too far. After the Xiao family nurtured you for so many years, this is how you treat Miss Xiao." A senior member of the group couldn't stand it anymore and directly rebuked, "Zheng Haodong, I heard that the old chairman had long prepared his will. Even if you kill Miss Xiao, the Xiao group will not be handed over to you." Zheng Haodong suddenly let go of me and burst into laughter, clapping his hands. At this moment, a female lawyer walked in with a will. Zheng Haodong glanced around at everyone, his eyes full of smugness. "I have long known that you lot are untrustworthy, always playing both sides against the middle. Now, with just a tiny test, you are all eager to turncoat? Humph. Since you mentioned the old chairman's will, I'll make sure you give up on this. Lawyer Zhao, read out the old chairman's will." Lawyer Zhao was my father's personal lawyer during his lifetime. What I didn't expect was that Lawyer Zhao had also been bought off by Zheng Haodong. After Lawyer Zhao took out and read my father's personally signed will, the guests were in an uproar, and I was dumbfounded. Lawyer Zhao laughed smugly and said, "According to the will, Haodong, as the son-in-law of the Xiao family, will succeed as the chairman of the Xiao group, while Miss Xiao inherits a villa from the Xiao family for her retirement." I instinctively wanted to shout out, "This is impossible. My dad wouldn't write such a will because he never liked Zheng Haodong from the beginning, and he always told me that the Xiao group should only be managed by me." But I ultimately held back, because no one present was a fool. The only reason Zheng Haodong dared to do this was that he must have planned it in advance. Lawyer Zhao took out the official seal and the appointment letter of Xiao Group and handed them to Zheng Haodong. "Lawyer Zhao, Congratulations, President Zheng. You are now the chairman of the Xiao Group. I hope for your generous understanding. Zheng Haodong laughed heartily as he took the official seal and the letter of appointment into his hands. Looking at me, he said, Xiao Ruoxue, I used to be just a dog kept by the Xiao family. I bowed and scraped in front of that old man, serving him dutifully, afraid that any mistake would get me kicked out of the family. In those years, I lived worse than a dog. From that moment, I desired one day to be in charge of the Xiao Group, to trample all of you Xiao family members underfoot. I've waited for this day for a full 10 years. Haha, I finally achieved it. After finishing, Zheng Haodong raised his hand and slapped my face hard. That really feels good as hell. Zhou Lin stepped forward, holding her wedding dress, and hugged Zheng Haodong. Husband, we never have to endure the Xiao family's crap again. Let's start our wedding quickly. I can't wait to marry you. Zheng Haodong took Zhou Lin's hand, gesturing to his subordinates to push me out. When we were halfway, suddenly Zhou Lin came over again and whispered in my ear, Xiao Ruoxue, you no longer have any value to us. You can go die now, ha. Zhou Lin made a throat-slitting gesture. The bodyguards pushed me out and carried me to the rooftop, preparing to throw me off the 33-story building. I knew I couldn't pretend any longer, so I seized the chance to jump out of the wheelchair when they weren't paying attention. But my legs hadn't walked for the past 5 years. Although I could feel them now, standing on the ground all of a sudden made it impossible to adapt to the unexpected pressure, and I collapsed, unable to get up. The 2 bodyguards then surrounded me and slapped me a few times as I lay on the ground. Just when I thought I was done for, a sudden shout startled the 2 bodyguards, causing them to drop me and run away. Lin Boyu, holding my daughter's hand, charged over with a group of bodyguards and swiftly pinned the 2 bodyguards to the ground. With a pained expression, Lin Boyu gently helped me up, held me, stroked my face, and asked me tenderly, Ruoxue, are you okay? I'm sorry, it's my fault for being late. I couldn't hold back my tears any longer and cried uncontrollably. The day had felt like a roller coaster ride, and I had almost lost my life. Boyu, I was wrong. My parents have passed away. You are all I have now. Lin Boyu patted my back, and this gave me an inexplicable sense of peace. Let's go. I have already obtained evidence of Zheng Haodong's crimes. Today is the day he and Zhou Lin meet their end. After Lin Boyu finished speaking, he wiped away the tears at the corners of my eyes. His eyes were filled with determination. Don't worry, as long as I am here, no one will dare to bully you or your daughter again. Henin clapped her hands happily. Uncle, you are so handsome. Mama and Uncle are a perfect match. Huan Huan made me laugh. After casting her a playful glance, I took her with me towards Zheng Haodong's wedding venue. On the way, Henin told me that after being force-fed unconscious by Aunt Zhang, she was carried into a car and taken to an abandoned old factory. When she woke up, she found Aunt Zhang pouring gasoline on her, threatening to set her on fire if she dared to utter a single cry. Henin cried out in great fear as Aunt Zhang took out a lighter, preparing to burn Henin to death. At that moment, Lin Boyu rushed in with bodyguards and captured Aunt Zhang, finally rescuing Henin. I held Henin in my arms with a heartfelt ache and promised her that Mommy would never leave her again. Henin gave me a happy kiss. At the wedding venue, Zheng Haodong was holding Zhou Lin's hand, completing the wedding under the witness of the officiant, while Steward Zhou stood by with an irrepressible smile. Before the crowd, Butler Zhou excitedly announced, Today, our Zhou family celebrates 2 joyous occasions. Haodong is officially taking over the Xiao Group, and he is marrying my daughter. I am so thrilled. Among the guests, some who wanted to please immediately echoed Butler Zhou, saying that the Zhou family was about to soar. Zheng Haodong laughed heartily, couldn't help but raise his glass and look around at the crowd, saying, This toast is to wishing the early conversion of the Xiao Group into the Zheng Group, and for me to soon become the richest man. Ha ha ha. The guests below raised their glasses in celebration. Mr. Zheng, your wedding is truly lively. I have a gift for you. I wonder if you will like it. Suddenly, the door opened, and Lin Boyu walked in with a group of bodyguards. After Lin Boyu finished speaking, his accompanying bodyguards carried in 4 wreaths, each made of fresh flowers with congratulatory messages, wishing Zheng Haodong and Zhou Lin an early ascent to paradise. Zheng Haodong and Butler Zhou's faces turned pale with anger. Zhou Lin pointed at Lin Boyu, her eyes burning with rage. Lin Boyu, Haodong is now also the chairman of Xiao Group. Are you looking for death by doing this? Lin Boyu glanced at the wreath, laughing and scolding the bodyguards. What's wrong with you guys? I said that Chairman Zheng is getting married today, not having a funeral. I asked you to send flowers, not wreaths. The bodyguards suppressed their laughter and lowered their heads, while Lin Boyu continued to look mischievously at the furious Zheng Haodong and his companions. Oh, Chairman Zheng, my apologies. After all, a wreath is also made of flowers. Just make do with it for today. You'll be needing it soon enough. Zheng Haodong's eyes widened in rage, and his body trembled. Lin Boyu, you're too vicious. Someone, get them out of here. Zheng Haodong's bodyguards rushed over, but before they could get close to Lin Boyu, they were knocked to the ground by his followers. Zheng Haodong's face changed drastically when he saw his bodyguards on the ground. He couldn't believe his men were so vulnerable and cursed. Useless, useless. Lin Boyu, with his hands in his pockets, looked at Zheng Haodong and said, Zheng Haodong, the show hasn't even started yet, and your men are already down. What a bunch of weaklings. Zheng Haodong questioned Lin Boyu. Today is my wedding day. What exactly do you want? Lin Boyu shrugged. Your wedding day, huh? Well, go ahead and play all your cards. If not, I will have to bring out today's heavyweight guest. Heavyweight guest. Zheng Haodong and Zhou Lin exchanged glances and then, together with all the guests, turned their attention towards the door. As the door slowly opened, I entered, holding my daughter's hand. After some time to adjust, my legs had recovered enough for me to walk again. Although the steps were very slow, the scene was so quiet that a pin drop could be heard, and not a sound could be heard from the crowd. They stared at me with different expressions. Even though I was once the female CEO of the Xiao Group, the aura I exuded was still so intimidating. Miss Xiao, have you recovered? I don't know who noticed and said something, causing an uproar. Zhou Lin and the others looked at me in horror, and the butler Zhou even screamed, Xiao Ruoxue Hanin. They aren't dead yet. I stopped about 10 meters away from them, coldly staring at the Zhou father and daughter, as well as that beast Zheng Haodong. Are you all surprised why I can stand here perfectly fine? Zheng Haodong backed away a few steps in fear. You can talk? You can walk normally? How is this possible? How is this possible? Zhou Lin. All right, I see. You were pretending all along. I sneered. You secretly had the nurse drug me, keeping me in a coma, so you could take over the Xiao Corporation, didn't you? So you've been wondering how I woke up, right? Zhou Lin was shocked. How did you know we drugged you? I crossed my arms. Good. You admitted it. Zhou Lin. I did not. I patted Han Han's head. Han Han, tell her why I could wake up. Han Han glared at Zhou Lin and then crossed her arms. I saw Aunt Zhang put medicine in my mom's nutrient solution, so I secretly poured it out and replaced it with clean water. Lin Boyu smiled. Han Han, you're amazing. No wonder you're Washua's daughter. So smart and clever. Zheng Haodong instantly flew into a rage. Zhao Han Han, you ungrateful little brat, I'll flay you. Zheng Haodong rushed over intending to teach Henin a lesson, but Lin Boyu sent him sprawling onto the ground with a swift kick, leaving him face down in the mud. I stepped forward, sweeping my gaze over the guests and the Zhou father and daughter. Today, I am going to list the 4 crimes of this group of beasts. I ask everyone to witness for us. Crime 1. The Zhou father and daughter colluded with Zheng Haodong to cause a car accident that killed my biological parents. Zhou Lin helped Zheng Haodong up and screamed in protest. You're talking nonsense. I chuckled. Whether these are lies or not, you will soon find out. Crime number 2. Zheng Haodong is unworthy of being a father. He conspired with his mistress to harm my daughter. Worse than a beast. Zheng Haodong, do you admit it? Zheng Haodong stammered. I stepped forward once more. Zui-san, you conspired with outsiders and colluded with foreign conglomerates, attempting to short the Xiao Corporation. When that failed, you tried to force me to hand over the Xiao Corporation. Your malicious intentions and insatiable greed are truly reprehensible. Butler Zhou's old face was pale, his eyes bloodshot as he looked at me. Miss Xiao, what you say is all unfounded accusations. You are slandering my son-in-law and daughter. It truly breaks this old servant's heart. I have worked diligently for the Xiao family for 20 years. Why do you force me so harshly? I laughed, looking at this deceitful old man. I used to think that Butler Zhou was loyal to my father. My Xiao family even treated him as an honored guest. I even called him Uncle Zhou and respected him greatly. But I never expected that our Xiao family would raise such an ungrateful person. He secretly devised schemes for Zheng Haodong, fully intent on bringing down our Xiao group. He even cunningly transferred assets under the Zhou family's name. His audacity knows no bounds. Diligent? Today I will present the evidence of your corruption and theft to show everyone just how diligent you are and how you embezzled the Xiao family's property for your own gain. Zui 4. Housekeeper Zhou and Zhou Lin, the father and daughter, colluded with Zheng Haodong to embezzle the Xiao Group's assets, with the amount of corruption reaching hundreds of millions. All these evidences are in this USB drive. I handed the USB drive to Lin Boyu. Lin Boyu found a computer and played the video evidence he had collected. The guests were completely shocked. The personas and prestige that Zheng Haodong and his accomplices painstakingly built over the past 5 years completely collapsed in this moment. As Zheng Haodong was about to collapse, Zhou Lin sneered. So what? Isn't the vast Xiao Group still ours? According to the old chairman's will, Haodong is the rightful heir. Isn't that right, Lawyer Zhao? I sneered silently. It would have been better if they didn't mention the will, because that makes it their 5th crime. Lawyer Zhao dared not respond, stuttering and lowering his head in silence. Zhou Lin seemed to understand something. She grabbed Zheng Haodong's collar frantically and shouted, Haodong, what is going on here? Zheng Haodong backhanded a slap across Zhou Lin's face. I forged the will. Wasn't it for your Zhou family? Wasn't it because you manipulated me? Zheng Haodong turned around and knelt in front of me, crying pitifully. Looking at his hypocritical appearance, I really wanted to vomit. Ruoxue, you know I love you. I did all this so that the Zhou family would take good care of you after you get better. Now that you've recovered, I've decided not to marry Zhou Lin. Let's remarry. I promise to treat Henin well and be a good husband. Slap. I suddenly raised my hand and slapped Zheng Haodong's face. You say all this now, do you really think I would believe you? Slap. I backhanded another slap across Zheng Haodong's face. I was deceived by your sweet words back then. Now you're still trying to play tricks on me. Do you think I'm still that naive? Slap, slap, slap. I kept striking, slapping Zheng Haodong dozens of times to vent my resentment accumulated over the years, making his face swell. Finally, a large group of police rushed in and took Zheng Haodong and his men away. Just the crime of murdering my parents alone is enough to keep them behind bars for life. I took a deep breath and looked up to the sky, addressing the spirits of my parents. Mom, Dad, I have avenged your deaths. You can rest in peace now. Right after Zheng Haodong and his men were taken away, the scene was suddenly illuminated again with romantic lights. Then, petals began to shower down from the sky. Han Han happily reached out to catch the petals, her face beaming with an innocent smile. Wow, such beautiful petals. Uncle, you're so romantic. Lin Boyu held a wedding ring in his hand, knelt on one knee, and looked at me sincerely. Ruoxue, the 10 years I missed with you have become the past. In these 10 years, you were deceived and bullied, and I was unable to protect you. I could only silently feel the pain. I hope that in the remaining years of our lives, I can be by your side, love you dearly, protect you, and never let you suffer any more grievances. I covered my mouth. Tears kept streaming down. I cried and hugged Lin Boyu's head. Boyu, thank you, I love you too. Oh, Henin came